Hi, I'm Dave Chaplin. I'm here with Crawford Temple, and this is The Compliance Files. We're still talking about umbrella companies and payroll and so on. Crawford, what would you say are the sort of common models you're seeing in the markets at the moment, and how are things emerging?
Okay. Typically, when a contractor is looking at what their options are going to be through the agency, some agencies will operate where they will engage the worker themselves as a worker, and that's known as agency PAYE.
And is that just like they're on a salary of some sort, as if they're with another employer that
Yeah,
they might be used to elsewhere?
Yeah, they would agree a rate. And if they do, so let's say the rate's £20 an hour and they do 10 hours work, then they'll be paid 10 times £20.
Yeah.
And all the associated employment costs that go alongside that, the agency would cover those and pay those. So the worker knows exactly what they're going to get paid.
Well, they're not
for
taken
each.
out of it's £20. It's just they're getting paid £20 and it's treated as just
paid
like a salary.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly right.
Right. Okay.
Then you've got the umbrella, which...
There's various models of umbrella now, isn't there? I mean, there's sort of traditional ones and there's new emerging ones. What are you seeing?
Yeah, the traditional one is the standard where you get an uplifted rate. And it's important that contractors understand the rate they're being offered by the agency, because it will mean a different take home. So an umbrella company is the agency saying, we don't want to employ you. We're going to pass it out to this organisation who's going to employ you.
Yeah.
But because we're not employing you, we're not suffering any of these employment costs that are associated with employing you. So we're going to increase the rate because we're not suffering them.
Yep.
And we're going to pass all of that extra money to the umbrella company because we've got a contract with them. And that means that where the uplifted rate is calculated correctly, the worker should be on no less. Quite often they're on only a small amount more, but they should be on no less than they would be if they were engaged through PAYE. And what you'll find is a lot of the responsible umbrella companies, if a contractor has a PAYE rate and an uplifted rate, they'll run a pay illustration across both so that you can see the difference between the two.
Okay. And this is we're going into the area of rates here, and this is something I've sort of had a bit of a bee in my bonnet for a while, and I know you and I have had many discussions about these rates. So there's typically what most contractors are used to, I guess, historically, is there's just a gross rate, and they'll be using their own limited company, and let's say it's £300 or £400 a day. Let's say £400 a day. Now, if they then go to an umbrella, then that whole £400 is used by the umbrella to actually employ them, and then it's part of their employment costs. So the employer's NI has to be reversed out of that, and so on and so on and so on. Now, that's a choice by the contractor to work that way. But the sort of bee in the bonnet I've had over the years is when the agency says the contract is, I don't know, £400 a day. It's inside IR35, and you must use an umbrella company. But really, it's not really £400 a day, is it? It's more like about £350 if it was a PAYE rate. And that's where there's been confusion, and people don't find out till the last minute, and so on. And there's needs to be more transparency about that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the contractors and the way it's sometimes presented to them is that it's their rate. We're using an umbrella company. It's not the contractor rate, because the contractor doesn't have the contract with the agency. It's the umbrella that has the contract with the agency. So what's really important when you're offered the rate by the recruitment company for any role is understanding what that rate is. It's often referred to as either the umbrella rate, the limited company rate, or the uplifted rate. If it's that, then that means where you're using an umbrella company, the employment costs were taken from that rate, and the umbrella company will typically give you an illustration that will show what it means to you for your net pay and take home, which effectively you can work very quickly out what your rate is from that.
So I think what we're now seeing in the market is there's just more transparency over those rates, where the agency is saying what the rate is, or sometimes it even offers two rates: an agency payroll rate and an umbrella rate. Or if they don't know whether it's inside or outside IR35, they might be offering a gross rate. So it can get quite confusing. But fortunately, there is something that's come to the rescue in a
You're going
way.
to talk about the key information document.
I'm leading into the key information document. So, do people call it the KID for short, or are we still using the full length of it?
Well, most of us, I suppose, in the sector refer to it as the KID. I'm not sure how contractors are aware of it. I'm not even sure that contractors properly understand it.
I would say they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't really. I could count on one hand the number of contractors that have come to us and asked us what one is. So, to clarify for contractors, there's actually a legal requirement now, I understand, from April this year. It's from April 2020.
Yeah, so from April 2020, there's a set format that a recruitment company has to provide to a contractor. So if whatever the rate being offered is, they've got to provide a set format. And if it is to use an umbrella company, then they provide a typical example of what the likely take-home pay would be for that umbrella company through the key information document, and it breaks it down in all the different categories and how that rate's broken down. But it shows them what their true rate is in terms of what they're going to be taking home.
So does it? So it's essentially it's like the pay illustration again, but it has to be in a certain format.
Yeah, the difference is that what the agency is likely to do is give them a generic illustration, not specific to an umbrella.
Okay.
And the umbrellas will have slightly different charging structures, which may make a pence of difference or a few pence difference on the take home. But when they go to the umbrella will give them their specific illustration.
So does this mean that when a contractor is engaging with an agency to look for a particular, I almost said role then, engagement, then they may well have negotiated, it's all been agreed what the rate's going to be. Is it at that point that the agency is required in law to give the contractor the key information document?
No,
where does it come into play?
Technically, the key information document it comes into play as soon as they're engaging with the worker. So it doesn't even have to be representative of the rate the contractor will be offered. There's no requirement for that.
In terms of timings, there's no requirement when it happens?
No, it happens right at the start. It has to happen right at the start so the worker understands.
Right.
If they were on X rate, then this is what it
before
would look
they
like.
sign the contract or after?
Yeah, no, before they sign the contract.
Has to be before they sign the contract.
Yeah.
They should be given.
As soon as they sign up with the agency, they should be given a key information document for illustrative purposes on the options that are available to them.
So these key information documents, they're more really for contractors that are going to be on payroll. They're not outside IR35 because that's easy, that bit.
Yeah.
You just get paid what you get paid, right?
It's going to be on payroll or using what I would call a payment intermediary, which is typically an umbrella company.
Okay, so the agency gives an illustration, and maybe that's not the right word to use. I'm about to come on to that. So they give a breakdown of what they're going to get paid. And then they read that, the contractor, and it's a case of either they take the job or they don't, I guess, right? Or do they?
Yeah. So
are there further steps?
No. So what would happen is if they're given the rate, they're given the illustration or the breakdown by the recruitment company, so the worker understands it. I would always say to contractors, ask if there's a PAYE rate available, as well as the umbrella rate or the uplifted rate or whatever tag is given to it, because then when you go to the umbrella company, you can check that the uplift is sufficient. The uplift should be enough to compensate for all the employment costs, but also there should be some in there to cover for the cost of using the third-party payment intermediary, the umbrella company.
Okay.
So if they have both the PAYE rate and the uplifted umbrella rate, when the illustration is done, they can see that their take-home pay through the agency PAYE on that rate and what their take-home is through the umbrella. And in most cases, the agencies will uplift that rate sufficiently so that the worker, even after paying an umbrella charge and having the employment costs and everything taken out, the worker will be slightly better off. And it might only be pence, 10, 20, 50p, but they shouldn't be less than. And responsible umbrellas, if they run that illustration and find that the worker is better off on the PAYE rate and the umbrella rate hasn't been uplifted enough, the umbrellas will say to you, you're better off going through the agency PAYE.
Yeah, I guess that would be a fairly easy decision to make for a lot of contractors, wouldn't it? So they get the key information document, and then they might be given a choice of umbrellas to use, unless they've got their own one that's on an approved list.
Yep.
And then after that, they ask either their own umbrella company or whichever one they've chosen, and then the umbrella company gives them an illustration is that down to the pence really?
It will make
accurate?
various assumptions.
Okay.
So the key thing that contractors need to understand, and this is the thing we get all the time, is that all of the umbrellas, compliant umbrellas, have exactly the same tax rules. So there are no quick fixes. There's no little roads leading off somewhere.
Yeah.
So the only thing that really will make a difference to the contractor's take-home pay will be the umbrella charge or margin, as it's referred to.
Yeah.
And that really is all you're saving is the marginal tax relief on it. So if one umbrella is charging you £20 and one's charging you 18, you're just saving the tax relief on that £2 difference. So once again, it comes down to the bottom line of your take-home is pence, a pound difference.
How much are they typically charging, these umbrella companies?
There is a broad range in the market. Yeah, it's we see them from £10 up to
£10 a week or a month?
£10 a week.
£10 a week.
Up to maybe £30 a week in some instances.
And that amount they're charging will be in that breakdown.
Yeah.
So the most they could be charging, well, based on that 30, would be about £120-ish a month. But if the contractor's earning £400 a day, I know that's quite a lot actually for contractors. Let's say £200 a day, it's still nice. So they're getting £4,000 a month. So the only difference really between all of them could be, about 80 quid.
But that's 80 quid gross.
Yeah,
but because it's taken out before any tax calculations, it doesn't cost the contractor £80.
Yeah. So in the grand scheme of things, when they're seeing a payslip every week, do they get them weekly or is it normally monthly?
Depends on what the agency terms are. Some agencies pay weekly, some pay monthly. Some umbrella companies will run payrolls on a daily basis, so that you haven't got to wait to the end of the week if they get paid before then. So they're all fairly flexible. And if your agency hasn't got specific payment dates and payment terms, then talk to your umbrella, because that might be one of the reasons why you select one umbrella over another, because they'll be doing a daily pay run.
That's useful to know. So what if a contractor is thinking about selecting an umbrella, what would be the key things that they would be looking for that might differentiate some with the others? What are they looking out for?
Depending upon the contractor's situation, the key one is obviously payment.
Getting paid?
Yeah, and you want to get paid as soon as the umbrella gets paid. What you don't necessarily want to do is have the umbrella sitting on your money for any extended period.
But don't some of these agencies have arrangements whereby they won't get paid by their client for months? It could be 60-day payment terms. So then, do they have to wait 60 days?
No. So typically what will happen is the agencies will either pay the umbrella within the contract, it will say on a weekly or a monthly basis, subject to the contractor submitting an approved timesheet that says, I've done these hours, and it's all signed off by the end client. So the agencies can fund that. In some cases, the agencies will have deals with umbrella companies where they fund it. One of the things that's important is where you're operating through an umbrella company, because you are an employee of the umbrella company, whether the umbrella gets paid or not, they have to pay you whatever your salary is for the hours you've worked, because they're your employer, and that's the rules under national minimum wage.
Does that differ though if someone's under different types of models? We were talking about those models. There's one where you get paid from memory, I think it was minimum wage plus sort of bonus or something. I don't know what they call it, bonus. And then there's ones where
bonus usually.
Discretionary bonus. Maybe I remember that phrase from the coronavirus stuff.
Yeah.
And then the others, it's just you get paid the whole thing as salary. Is that right? Is that PEO one?
Let me answer that in two stages.
Yeah.
The first thing a contractor should do is read the contract.
Okay.
And you haven't got to read all the technical legal wording. It's not that complicated. What you want to do is look at how the pay is defined. And generally in an umbrella company, you'll see pay defined as a salary at national minimum wage, and a bonus,
Okay.
a flexible bonus. And some of those bonuses are discretionary, some of those bonuses aren't discretionary. There are tax rules as to why it would be done that way. And I think what people are going to see happening is, because of the coronavirus situation that came out, umbrellas are now got a range of employment terms that they should be trying to align more to the contractor's requirements. But that will define your pay.
Okay.
And how it comes and comes through, and the agency contract will make clear how to the umbrella how often. So the umbrella will generally give you, with your employment contract, a summary of the key terms of the contract that they've signed with the agency to say you're going to be paid weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever it be. The new model that you're talking about is the PEO, Professional Employment Organisation. That one's different in some respects to an umbrella, because it's where you're not given an uplifted rate. You're told you're on £200 a day, and you are paid £200 a day.
Okay.
And what the provider will then do is invoice all the employment costs back to the recruitment company, who then pay it. And that's generally done where a recruitment company recognises the need to have a PAYE rate for their workers because they want to fix it, but don't want to run their own agency PAYE.
It all works out to be the same amount in the end, then, doesn't it?
Pretty much so, yeah.
Doesn't see much difference. It's just either you've got an uplifted rate that includes the employment costs with the traditional umbrella, or you've got a standard PAYE rate, which is
the difference
after the employment costs are taken off what was the original uplifted rate.
The difference between the two is if the contractor is given an uplifted rate, any savings of employment costs will increase their take-home pay. So if a contractor said, I'm going to opt out of pension auto-enrolment, they're saving costs on auto-enrolment, which will increase their take-home pay.
Okay.
Where you have a PAYE rate under professional employment organisation or agency PAYE, any savings in employment cost are saved by the recruitment company.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference between the two.
Okay. It could all come out.
But it all comes out
in the wash.
Pretty much the same number.
Yeah. And some of these umbrella companies, it was actually a query that came in recently at Contractor Calculator. I don't know the answer.
Hope I do.
Do they all allow you to do salary sacrifice so you can just chuck all the money in a pension and get all the tax relief?
Some of them do. Some of them will allow contractors, the high earning ones, to do salary sacrifice into pensions, and that is an attractive option for the higher paid contractors. So a number of them are now getting themselves set up for that because they're expecting and anticipating higher earning contractors coming into the umbrella where they've been caught by IR35. In the past, all of those contractors were operating through their own limited companies. And there's a lot of contractors on the limited company side that were making significant pension contributions because they didn't necessarily need all of that income. But there are, and that could be one of the other determining factors. So if you're a high earning contractor, one of your determining factors of choosing an umbrella is that you might want one that's able to do these things. It's a bit like when you do your house insurance. If you've got a box standard house, you can go to Direct Line. If you haven't got a box standard house and you've got high value items or a bit of artwork or nice jewellery, you know, Direct Line might struggle with it, so you might go to Hiscox and get a bespoke policy. You know, you've got a range of providers in the market, and what you're trying to do is find the one knowing the key parts that you're looking for.
So if you were to sign up with one that was maybe a bit cheaper, a bit vanilla, can you just quickly change during a contract to use a different one?
Usually you can't change mid-term through a contract because the recruitment company doesn't like to reissue new contracts to a new provider. So you'd have to normally wait until the break in a contract and you get a new assignment or a new contract. But once again, you go back to the point, which is, you know, you don't want to keep changing the umbrella. So if you understand that that's going to be a key part of what you're wanting to be able to do, then in your questions with the umbrella company, you're going to be asking them whether they can do that and how the process works.
Okay, thanks, Crawford. That's great. Thanks for listening to the Compliance Files. And if you have any comments, then please put them below the video. Thank you.